Hello everyone, I am Jared, one of the full stack technical leads at NTU GDSC. Today, I'll be taking you through this workshop on Introduction to Angular. Here is what I'll be covering today. Firstly, I'll give you a brief insight to what Angular is and what makes it so popular amongst web developers. Afterwards, I will share some of the requirements that you need in order to use Angular, and I will also show you how to install it on your computer. Lastly, I will be building a to-do list mini project that you can follow along and code with me. So what is Angular? Angular is an open source full stack web development framework developed and maintained by Google. It uses HTML and TypeScript to build responsive and dynamic web pages, and also allows for easy development of both single and multi-page websites, thanks to its wide variety of inbuilt features like application routing. Some other reasons why Angular is so popular is because it is developed by Google, which ensures its performance and stability. It also offers long-term support, with a major update being rolled out every 6 months. Angular also comes with tons of inbuilt features right out of the box, which makes the development process much easier, since we simply have to import the component. Next, it is also compatible with multiple web browsers across different operating systems, and it's also very popular amongst many MNCs like Google, Microsoft, and PayPal. Now, on to the requirements for Angular. Well, all that you really need is just Node.js that's installed on your computer. So if you haven't done so, please go ahead and do it now. Once you have successfully installed Node.js, you can proceed to install Angular. So let's go ahead and open up the terminal or command prompt. And for me, I'll be using the one that is inside Visual Studio Code. Here we can install Angular by running the command npm install -g, which stands for global, at angular/cli. Hit enter, and it will install all the required packages. And if it's successfully installed, you will see that we've added 231 packages and there are no error messages. So now that we have installed all the packages, we can go ahead and create a new Angular application. So to do that, I'll be running ng new and to-do list app, which is the name of what my application will be. Okay, and here we will be using regular CSS, and we will just enable this for now. And we just have to wait until all the packages are installed successfully. Okay, and now all the packages are installed successfully, and you can see that there's a new folder that's created here. This is the application that we just created using the command that we ran just now. And now let's try to run this application. To do so, we have to first navigate into the directory. And afterwards, we run ng followed by serve. So ng serve is the command that you run every time you want to run the Angular application. Okay, and now that the site is built successfully, we can open up this URL here to view the web application. Okay, and this is what it looks like. And now we can verify that our app is running successfully. Yeah. So let's go ahead and close this application for now. Now, there is another package that we will be installing, and this package is Bootstrap, which is what will help us to style the application. So to do so, we will do npm install Bootstrap and hit enter. And it has been successfully added. So now let's go ahead and import Bootstrap into our application. So to do that, go into the source directory and navigate to this styles.css file. And as you can see right now, it is completely empty. There's absolutely no styling at all. So what we'll do is we will import Bootstrap. So command will be import double quotations bootstrap slash scss slash bootstrap.scss. Yeah. And now Bootstrap is successfully imported into the Angular application. Now let's also take the chance to finish setting up the application for the mini project later. So the first thing that we will have to do will be inside the app.component.html file. If you open it up, you can see that there's a huge chunk of this style element that we no longer need. So we can go ahead and delete it. Delete it. Yeah. And inside the main tag, the entire content part is also not relevant to us anymore because we will be adding in our own components and our own code inside. So we can go ahead and delete that as well. And let's just clean it up a little bit more. Delete the comments. And let's just add something inside so that we can verify that the website is still working. So let's put a h1 tag and to do list, which is the name of our application. So now let's run the application again to make sure that everything is still okay. Let's open up the website. And yeah, as you can see now it's completely empty with only this H1 element for to-do list. And so we verify that, okay, we have done setting up the application. Now, before we continue on to the project, let me give you a quick demonstration of what I will be building later on. So let's go ahead and exit this ng-serve. And let me bring up the other project that I've already built. Okay, and here it is. This is what the end product would look like. You have the same H1 that we had here. You have an input field with an add button to add more to-dos. And you also have the table to display all of the to-dos. So for example, if I add in something like item 4 and click add, it will just add it to the end of the table. And let's say item 1 is completed. So we check that off. And you can see that it also cancels off the entire line. Yeah, and it will alternate like so. And let's say I want to delete item 2. So I will go ahead and delete it. And item 2 is now not there anymore. I can do so for item 4, item 3. And if I wanted to edit back, I can do so as well. Yeah. And once I edit it back, the input field will also automatically clear on its own. So yeah, this is a fairly simple project that will give you a decent understanding on how Angular works as a framework. So let's close this off. And now we can start building our application. So the first thing that I will do will be to create new component. So I will do ng generates components. And I'll do the name of the name of the component as to do this. And it has created these files here inside the app directory. And this to-do list component will be created inside the app directory as well. So if you open it up, these are the 4 files that you find inside here. And now that we have this component, let's go ahead and import this into the main application. So to do so, we open up this app.component.ts file. And notice over here, imports inside the component. So we add it inside here. list component. And remember to import it at the top here as well. Now that we've imported the new to-do list component, let's go ahead and add it into the main HTML file. So let's add it in underneath this h1 tag. And to do so, we can do this add dash to-do list, which is the name of the component. Just close off the tag. And let's just run the application to verify that the component is successfully loaded. Let me try that again. Okay, and now it's building the site. Okay, and let's open it up. Okay, and as you can see, the new component is successfully imported inside the site, which currently shows to-do list works. So our component works now. Now let's go ahead and create the part where we enter a new to-do item. So to do so, we go into the to-do list component, go into the HTML file, to-do list component.html. Okay, and from here, we will close it in a div. Inputs, which is where we will enter the new item. Type will be text. And we will also have a button called add. Okay, let's see how that is. Something like this. But obviously right now it doesn't work. So let's go ahead and add more things. And afterwards, let's also put in the table to display all our to-dos. And for this, I'll have a class called table as well. Let me also put in the table header. Table row. So I'll have an index. I will have the name of the item. And we'll have maybe completed. I will have when it was created. And lastly, I will also have one column for the delete button. Yeah. And let's also go ahead and initialize the table body, which we can just leave as empty for now because there's nothing inside. Okay. Now let's also create a new model. And the model will be the to-do item. Yes. So this to-do item, it will be a class. So export class to-do item. And for this, I will have the 4 attributes that I have here. So it will be name. I will have completed. It will be Boolean. Created, which is a date. And lastly, I will also have a constructor to initialize these 3 attributes here. So I will only need name. I only need to enter the name. So it will be name string. And from inside the constructor, I do this dot name, equals to name. This dot completed, I will initialize it to false. And this dot created, I will put it as a new date. which will give us the date that it was created, which is today. So now our to-do item model is completed. Let's go ahead and close that. And the next part that we'll focus on will be adding new to-dos into the to-do list. So let's go into this component.ts file here. And inside this to-do list component, this is where we add all the logic, all of our data inside. So first thing to do will be to create a new attribute for all the to-do items in the list. So let's do items to do item as a list equals to an empty list for now. Okay, next, we will also be adding a function to add items into this to-do list. So let's go ahead and create the function. We will be add item name gives me Boolean is equals to name string. Okay, so what this function does is it will take in the name that I pass into this function, and then it will add this item into this item list here. And if it is successful, it will return true. If it was not successful or didn't get added to the item list, then it will return false. So let's go ahead and code that out. So if let's say there is no entry, then I won't do anything. If not, we do not want to add any duplicated items. So for let I in the range of 0, I less terms dot length I plus plus. If terms I dot this dot items I dot name equals to name, then return false. So this is to ensure that there's no duplicated to-do items. And if there are no duplicated items, then I will add something into the list. So I will put outside the for loop this dot items dot push and initialize a new to-do item object with the name that I entered. And then afterwards, I'll return true. Okay, and now this function is completed. So let's go ahead and try to render this. So to do so, we go inside the to-do list component.html, and we will do add for item of items track item. So what this essentially means is I'm iterating through the list of to-do items, and I'm rendering something based on what the item is. So let's go ahead and do what I want to render. So it will be a table row, table data. And the first column that I want is the index of the item. So to do that, it will be $index plus 1. Then afterwards, it would be the name. So item dot name. Then it will be completed. And for completed, I want a checkbox. So I will put an input field of a type of checkbox. And To obtain the item, whether or not it's completed, and show it whether or not the checkbox is checked, I will do checked inside square brackets, and I will do item dot completed. And afterwards will be the created field, which is td item dot created. And lastly, it will be the delete, which will be a button with delete. Let's also add the add function to here. So it will be on click in brackets, then add item, and I will have passed in the name of the string, which is the value of this input, text input field. So to obtain that, we will first identify this text input field by doing hex name, and inside I will pass name dot value. Yeah. So what this means is every time I click on this button here, it will pass in the value of this input field into the add item function, and it will add this item into the list. So let's go ahead and test that out. So item 1. And as you can see here, our first item got created. You can go ahead and add as many as you want. You can put anything you want. But this is quite long, so let's try to shorten it or make it a bit nicer. So we will maybe convert it into a date string instead. Yeah, let's test that out. The one, that looks a lot better. So we'll go with that. Now let's also try to add the same item, see whether that's possible. And it's not possible because we had the for loop to check whether or not there was any duplicates. So we are good with that. And afterwards, let's go ahead and write out a few more functions. So the next function that I want will be to delete the item. So we will do delete item, and I will do name, the string, and this shouldn't return anything. So I'll have it as void, and then just fill that out accordingly. And over here, let's do a for loop. Actually, let's copy this over. Okay, so if there's no name, then I won't do anything. If there is a name, I'll iterate through the list, and then I will check whether or not this name is inside the list. And if it is, then I will slice the list at that index for one count. And afterwards, I can just return and break out the function. Yeah, so let's go ahead and add this into our delete button. So it will be click, delete item, and item dot name. So let's go ahead and try that out. So maybe let's create a few items. Item 1, item 2, item 3, item 4. Okay, so let's try to delete item 2 first and delete it. Item 3, 1, 4. Okay, so our delete button works now. Okay, now that we've created both the adding and deleting functions of the to-do application, let's go ahead and add one more function, which allows us to update the status, or rather toggle the status between completed and not completed. So to do that, we go into the to-do list component .ts file. And we will have another function called toggle status, which takes in a string called field and does not return anything. And so let's go ahead and code out the function. And it will be similar to this delete item. If there's no name, I won't do anything. If the name of the to-do corresponds with an item that's inside this items list, then and only then will I toggle it equals to negation of this. And afterwards, I will just return it. I won't do any more for loop to check. Yeah. And afterwards, let's add this function into here, into our checkbox. So if there is a change, then I will do toggle status item dot name. And now that we've added it here, we will also want to determine whether or not we want to strike through. So to do that, let's create another style class called maybe completed. And inside it, it will be text decoration and line 2. So what this essentially does is, if completed is within the class list, the entire line will be strike through. Yes, so let's add this inside class and double curly brackets for having an input. So if item dot completed, then it will be completed. If not, it won't do anything. Okay, let's go ahead and try that out. Item 1, item 2, 3. And this should cancel off like so. So I can cancel off, can cancel off, can cancel off, and I can still delete. So now that we've done adding, updating, and deleting of the to-do list, let's go ahead and try to clear the input field once I add the item to the list. So to do so, I will be modifying this line over here at item name.value. So because our add item is Boolean, returns a Boolean value. If it is true, it means that I managed to add something to the list. So if it's true, then name.value equals to an empty string. So what this essentially does is it checks whether or not this is true. And if it is true, then we will go ahead and conduct this operation. But if it's not true, then nothing will happen at the end. So let's say I do item 1, I add, and see, this list gets cleared. If I try to edit again, this should not be able to add. So it would not get cleared. So let's try that out. Let's add, and yeah, nothing's happening. If I change it to 2, then yeah, only then will I be able to add. Now, let's try to also add another feature where I can initialize the initial to-do list with some values inside. So to do that, I will add input inside here. And I will go into my app.component.ts. Okay, now I will create a list of to-do items. So items, to-do item equals to list of new to do item, item one, item two, new to do item, three. Okay, and let's go into app.component.html, and let's pass that into this app.todo list. So inside the to-do list component, I would like to receive an input for items. So I must take note of this variable name, and inside here, I will have to include in square brackets equals to items. Yeah. So what this essentially does is it will take in the existing list of items that I created inside the outer app component, and it will pass it through to this app to-do list component, to this variable called items here. Yeah, and as you can see, it is initialized properly. So if I go ahead and delete it, I go ahead and add item 1, 2, 3, it will add normally, but once I refresh it, it will reinitialize it to the same 3 items that we had inside here. Okay, and now we are done building our to-do list application. So to give you a quick recap of what we have done today, I started off by installing Angular with you guys. Afterwards, I created a new to-do list application and also did the necessary setups, such as installing Bootstrap, clearing out the original app.component.html file. And afterwards, I also went ahead and showed you guys how to generate new components, such as this to-do list component over here. I also showed you how to add components to your application and also how to pass items into these components. Inside the component itself, I've also shown you guys how to have items similar to inside the main application. Also showed you guys how to manipulate these items using functions, which in this case is the add, delete, and toggle status functions. And I also showed you guys how to render the list of items in a format that you would like. And that will be all from me today. And I thank you for joining me on this session, and I hope you enjoyed yourself. Thank you.